All right, welcome back. We are discussing the big developments at the SCO Summit and key takeaways and impact on the region. Let me go across to Ash Jain of Atlantic Council. Ash Jain, we saw several key bilaterals on the sidelines of this meeting. How would you read the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin?
Well, clearly this was Russia's attempt, Putin's attempt to show the world that Russia is not isolated. From Russia's point of view, India is an important partner. It is important for Putin to show that he has maintained global relations with important and powerful countries around the world, despite the Western sanctions and the efforts to isolate him for the war in Ukraine. And Modi, from his perspective, sees the need to continue to engage with Russia, primarily because Russia provides a cheap source of oil and energy supplies. So I think this was interesting for the two of them to have a chance to discuss greater cooperation, particularly on the energy and economic side, and to show that, at least from the Russian perspective, that they do have friends and they have partners, despite the war in Ukraine. I think it's somewhat treacherous for India in this case, because India is also under a lot of pressure from the United States and the West to distance itself from Russia. The effort is to try to penalize what Russia is doing in Ukraine by cutting off and isolating it economically and diplomatically. So Modi is taking somewhat of a risk here in terms of creating some greater tensions or discomfort in his relationship and his desire to maintain a good partnership with the West, even as he continues to stand with Putin. So it's a balancing act. And it's a right. challenge that India is continuing to engage in here as it tries to balance its economic interests, but also maintain and strengthen ties with the West, with the Quad, and with other countries that it needs, especially if it wants to continue to have a robust kind of defense with regard to the challenges from China.
Right. Ambassador Casey saying, coming to Iran, we saw the Prime Minister having a bilateral with the President of Iran. There was a bilateral between Russia and Iran as well on the sidelines of this meeting. President Putin welcomed President Raisi into the SCO as well. So how do you see Iran's presence here at the SCO, the key conversations, the takeaways from the meetings?
Iran has joined SCO at this summit. And I think the Russians, the general information is that the Russians are working to ensure that the nuclear deal is not revived very quickly as far as Iran is concerned. Because was Iran to get the nuclear deal and therefore have the sanctions lifted, it may start producing and exporting more oil. It's been suffering and the sanctions may be lifted. Because the West, between Russia and Iran, today, Iran is seen as a lesser evil, and therefore they would like to take the sanctions off and wean it away. And that is a way where they need the energy prices to come down with the US November midterm elections coming up. Russian attempt would be to encourage Iran not to go down that path and remain with them. Iranians, as usual, will play both sides or multiple sides. They are past masters at that. There won't be an easy solution because the Americans will have to get the Saudis, the Emiratis, and the Israelis on board to really get Iranian nuclear deal resurrected. So that is the game there. But essentially at these summits, what were the leaders there for? Xi Jinping came because his zero COVID policy is leading to a slowdown of the Chinese economy. And he has next month the extremely important Communist Congress meeting, where he wants the limit on the 2 terms to disappear, and he continues then forever as the leader of China. For Putin, it was important to show that he's not isolated. He's had a severe setback militarily in Kharkiv. His military is under pressure, and was he to lose Kherson, where now the pressure is building up, you may see internal changes in Russia, and that is a danger in engaging Russia at the cost of even offending the West. If tomorrow Putin doesn't stay, then all the investment you are making would not be worthwhile. And therefore, it's this balancing. And that's why the Ukraine word is not mentioned by anyone. Even India didn't bring it up, maybe not by name. When we are talking of instability and stability comes in, nobody asked why there's instability. Because the Chinese are assertive in South China Sea and they want to invade Taiwan or threatening to. And the Russians started the Ukraine war, which is what has caused the global inflation, which has caused energy prices to go up, and the food crisis, because the wheat produced by Ukraine was stuck there for many months. Nobody is asking that question. That the very guys who are now saying that we are looking for stability are the ones who are causing instability. And India is now sitting at the same table with them. So it's going to become more and more difficult for India to do this balancing.
Right.
There'll have to be some plain speaking to be done with both sides. You can't just do it with the West. You have also to do with these two gentlemen that you sit at the table with. So therefore, it's a balancing game, but which will get more complex, has already got complex, and may get more complex as we go forward.
Okay, we've run out of time, but Brahma Chalane, Ambassador KC Singh, Ash Jain, thank you very much for joining us here on Global Eye, giving us your view on the big highlights of the SCO Summit. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.